Before I get into the video, I just want to apologize to everybody who's watched my the first video doing the bearings on this truck, because I should have done more research before I made the video, because there was some things that I didn't know about and some things I should have done, which I'm going to show you now in this video. All that stuff, how to do it the right way, so this video will be a lot better than the first one. But I'm going to keep the first video up because I do show an issue where the bearing failed, and you can see in the video how difficult it is to get the broken piece of the bearing off of the spindle, because you probably will run into that problem, some of you. So I'm going to keep that video on there. After you take the wheel off, you have to come back here to these bolts, and you're going to remove them so that you can take the brake caliper off, the whole assembly off, so you can get the rotor off. And there's nothing wrong with these bearings in here. I'm just servicing them because I'm going to replace the bearing seal in the back. Get an 18mm socket. And I don't know what the torque is for these. I believe it's somewhere around 80 foot-pounds. That's what I'll torque these to later. Sorry that it's dark. I know you're going to do the lower one. Now you want to have something to put the caliper on, because you don't want to hang it on the brake line. Hold it, because the bolt is going to not hold it anymore, so it's going to fall. Actually, it's staying. Okay. I'm not going to be able to get it off because there's a little ridge on the rotor. That's what they do, and they wear a little bit over time. Caliper won't come off, so you have to loosen up these bolts up here. They are 1/2 inch. It's going to be hard because I already unscrewed the other 2 bolts, because usually you can take it all off. It doesn't usually get stuck like this. But if it does, you'll have to take these bolts out. And there's another one on the bottom you have to get out. Doing that helped me get it off. I gotta set it here so you don't stress the brake line. Later, if I have to get it back on, I'll use my C-clamp to push the pistons in a little bit. So you put the C-clamp in there, and you can compress the pistons. Right now we're gonna go back to the rotor. So you can see it spins very nice. Shouldn't be anything wrong with the bearings. I will inspect them when I open it up. This cap, there's no seal here, which is kind of dumb. This is just banged in. But I do put glue around it, E6000 adhesive. It's a silicone-based adhesive. I use that to seal it. It makes it hard to get the cap off, but it keeps water and dirt from getting to the bearings. Use a flathead to carefully pry this off. It'll come off. Just a little work. And I did order new nuts and washers for this, but the caps it came with, these caps, the new ones are too big. They don't fit on here. Get some pliers. We got to remove this cotter pin. Get it as straight as you can so you can pull it out. And yeah, you're supposed to replace these every time. Just wiggle it, it'll come out eventually. Take off this little. And you need this big boy. You need a 1/1/16 socket to get this nut off. Take the nut off. Put the nut somewhere where it's not going to get any dirt or anything on it. You don't want dirt. Dirt's a bearing's enemy. Worst enemy for a bearing is dirt. Grains of sand. Carefully take the rotor off. Grab this bearing so it doesn't fall down, get dirt in it. Show you this, look at this bearing closely. Even though it felt okay, I see little metal flakes in there, and see right there, the roller's damaged. Not sure what happened to it, but I do have another one because the cheap AutoZone one, it did fail. So they gave me a replacement. I had already replaced that bearing, so I have an extra one for this. It's always this front bearing that fails. This one is messed up, so I'm just going to put a new one. Get this off. There's the rear one. See, the rear one always survives. Take this one off too. It does look like it has a little bit of wear to it. But you see it's just superficial. It just changed the color of the rollers a little bit, but there's no nicks in the rollers, so I can reuse that bearing. Back here on the spindle is the bearing seal. I want to get that off. See, I didn't know about that. You had to replace these things, and I didn't tell you to do that in the other video. That's one thing that I learned that needs to be done. Another thing I didn't show you, since that bearing is going bad, you need to turn the rotor over. Inside there, let me get my screwdriver. There's a lip right here. See that lip right there? On the end of the flathead? You have to go around with a hammer and bang it to get the race out. I'm gonna try to reposition the camera so you can see me do that. You only have to replace the race if the bearing is damaged or if it's bad. I'm going to use this much longer flathead and bang this thing out. The race is almost out. See if I can pry it out. Nope, it still doesn't want to come out yet. There we go. There it is. There's the old one. It's not terrible, but I don't know if the camera's going to focus, but there is scoring in there. Not saying I'm going to reuse it anyway. I'm just showing you that there is some damage. When you're just opening this up to service the bearings every like 25,000 miles and put new grease, you don't have to change the races. That's only if the bearing is going bad or did go bad. This race is no good. I'm replacing it with the new one. Here's the new bearing. I recommend you look online. Don't get one from the auto parts store because from what I could see, they're not that great. I had one in here that lasted 3-4 years. And then it had some pitting in it like I showed you on the other bearing just now that was in here. And I replaced it, and then 3-4 months later it blew out when I was driving on the highway. I could feel it. I was like, what the heck was that? I don't even know how I got home without the wheel coming off. Scary. But here's the new race. Make sure you put see this side's fatter, put that side down. Clean off the old race. See how it fits right over the new race? Now we're gonna carefully bang it in there with the hammer. Wow, that was easy. It went in that easy. Huh. When I did this one on the other side, it was not that easy. See? Now, some paper towels and clean it off. And then what I do is I check it, put the new bearing in, make sure it fits and everything okay. See, there's some crap. Clean this, re-grease it. Re-grease that bearing, put it back in. And then put the seal in. The new seal. Get out as much of the old grease as you can. You have to be careful mixing greases because some of them are not compatible together and they have breakdown. I just do it like this until I get grease in there. So, and I can see it here where it's completely filled. They do have a thing you can get that actually, I think it's called a grease press. You can get that if you want. This is how I do it. I haven't had any major problems with the bearings doing it this way. You can try to hold it here and spin it to help get the grease in there. Make sure you use grease. That's for disc brake bearings because it can handle a higher temperature than regular grease. You can't use regular grease in these. Then another thing I do is in here I put grease on the race as well, so there's even more in there. And then I'll put some more on the top of the bearing before I install it. And I do this, spin it around a little bit. And I do this to try to press it in there. And like that, see some of the rollers. And I'll get some more grease and push it in there. Clean that up. Next, you're going to put the seal in. And you put it on. See how it's tight? It stays on there and seals around the rotor to keep stuff out. The rubber part spins on the spindle as you're driving. Hold it steady. Carefully tap it in with your hammer. You can use a lighter hammer. You don't have to use this big boy, but I like this hammer because it gets your stuff done faster. And you don't want this part to touch the road or the ground wherever you're at. So you're gonna, I got this old license plate cover I'm gonna use. Because the rotor has the lug bolts on the other side, so they keep it off the ground. Turn it over, come back to this side now. Take the new bearing here that I got and do the same thing. Do the best you can to press the grease into it. What I don't like about this is it looks like the part that secures the rollers is made out of cast iron. It's probably why it breaks. Probably when you have too much stress, like the damn potholes in the roads, because the cities don't fix them. Because you go over a lot of potholes, speed bumps, it'll destroy these bearings in a heartbeat. Same thing, I'm going to put some extra inside here on the race. Put the rotor back on the truck. Make sure you clean the spindle real well. Try to get all the dirt off. If you see any grains of sand, try to get rid of them. Take the rotor and reinstall it on the spindle. Like that. Get the bearing on there. You're gonna have to hold the rotor up, push it in. Try to clean up this mess a little bit. I got my new hardware I'm gonna use. New washer. The kit I bought came with the hardware for both wheels. The only thing was the covers don't fit. They're too big. Put the washer first. Put the new nut. First, you're going to torque it to 15 foot-pounds. Then you're going to try to spin this as you do it. Right there. Then you're going to do it to 30 foot-pounds. And you're going to try to spin it as you do that. Install this piece, I don't know what it's called. Make sure when it goes on, it lines up with it lines up with this hole on the spindle. There we go. See, it lines up with it good. Now I've seen other people say that after you torque it to 30 foot-pounds, the nut, you're supposed to back it off a quarter turn. I'm not sure why that is, but that's up to you if you want to do that. I don't do that, and I don't have any problems. You can get these cotter pins at Home Depot. They also have them at the auto parts store, I'm sure. I always get them at Home Depot. Make sure you replace it every time you do this job. When this is in here, the nut will loosen naturally over time a little bit, and it turns this piece, which then turns against the cotter pin and keeps it from unscrewing anymore. Because otherwise your wheel's gonna come off, which is scary. So anytime you feel some like when you're driving, pull over and make sure it's not your bearing. Like on this one, when it broke, this cap popped off too. And the only thing that saved my cap was I had the lug nut cover on it. As soon as I took that off, this little cover fell off. That was on the other side, not this side. That's why I wanted to check these bearings. And you're gonna bend each side of the cotter pin like this, so there's no way that it can come out. And I try to go like this to get it tighter so the cover will go on with no issues. Make sure the cap is clean. See, it's pretty clean in there. Put the cap on. Carefully tap it in with your hammer. If the cap doesn't go in tightly on its own, then you need to replace it because it's going to come off and expose the bearings. Next, I'm going to use my E6000 glue. I will have links to all of these things in the description, including the bearings. And if you make a purchase, it helps support my channel. And there's no additional cost to you to do so. Get a paper towel and you want to try to get some of the grease off of the rotor. Gone now. Okay. Gotta hold it. Get your big bolts. Try to get one in there. Finally got that bolt in. There we go. You're gonna torque these bolts to 80 foot-pounds. Do them incrementally. I'm gonna go do the bottom one now. There we go. 1/2-inch socket for that. I don't know what the torque is for these, so I just get them snug with the socket wrench. And that's it. Put the tire back on, take the jack and the jack stand out, and you're done. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope that this video was done a lot better than the first version.